Welcome to the Ward's Way podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ward's Way podcast. I'm Christy Hebert, President and CEO of Ward's Marine Electric, where we're going to be talking today about amazing lessons learned from business leaders. And today I have the pleasure of Carlos Vidueira with Huizenga Holdings. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. It's a long way from our early meetings at Lester's Diner.
We have moved up, haven't we? Yes, we have.
There's no cockroach walking around.
Well, I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. We've come a long way. So introduce yourself. So tell us what you do. Tell everybody out there what you do.
Well, I mean, I've been involved in different business pursuits for quite some time, but specifically, in the marine industry. We started with Wayne Huizenga Jr. purchasing the Rybovich Spencer shipyard in 2004.
Which I cannot believe is 20 years ago.
Yeah, that was 2004. And we had a kind of a vision for what that could become and what South Florida could become. And I'm happy to say, thanks to people like you and organizations like the ones you're interviewing for this series, that the industry's come a long way.
Well, I would be willing to say that it's thank you to people like you because, that's one thing that I'd really like to make sure that we express during this and through our conversations. And we had a lot of fun. And I have to say, you're one of the most hardworking. I have to say that being around you, I oftentimes feel lazy. I don't know. You have like 30 hours in your day or 36 hours in your day, because the things that you can accomplish and the flights that you're on and the amazing things that you're able to balance. And our industry is very grateful to have had you be such a part of it and continue to be a part of it. So I will say that one of the things, and I have this envelope, and I have not had an envelope on my lap, but this is one of the first times that I met you, and it was really interesting. Because I think I met you through Scott Miser when Scott Miser started working for Rybovich. And for all of you that don't know that name, Scott Miser owned AMT, which is now a Marine Max, and then went to work for Rybovich for many years. But Scott was a past president of the Marine Industries Association. And at the time, you and Junior were trying to get... you were doing an application for the MARAD shipyard grant, so the Maritime Administration. And so the MARAD shipyard grant would give facilities. And at the time when we were trying to do this, they would give these facilities, mainly commercial facilities, money. And we were trying to show that the economic impact on recreational facilities, and specifically Rybovich, which, by the way, is still the only shipyard in the coastal United States, is that true, that can haul out boats of the size of anywhere in the world, correct? The largest boats?
I mean, now you have the Savannah. Savannah, you can haul out bigger boats, and so I can't.
But at the time,
exactly.
I think that's where it was, and now I would say that ironically, Rybovich has led the trail on that. But anyway, and so I remember Scott saying, you should, Christy, you should meet Carlos, and he and Junior are going to be doing some lobbying, and I was really into it at the time, and I was on the legislative committee, and I think I was maybe a past president of the association at this point. And this is the picture I was going to show. And this is a picture of us in Ileana Ross-Layton's office. And what's funny to me about the picture is that I was so nervous. And also just kind of our whole commute there, and what I learned a lot about Junior just as a human, and you, and how people might see you as this, this wealthy family and this big business is going up to lobby and get things for themselves, but you weren't. You were there to get things on behalf of an industry. We ate hot dogs from a hot dog cart. We did not have caviar and champagne, what people may think. think. And we were able to really, I think we probably had like 10 meetings that day with Justin.
Yeah, we did.
And
we got no money.
No, we didn't. We didn't get any money after all of that. But man, we took pictures.
We sure tried. We learned a lot about what it was going to take.
We did, and we learned that there was a steep climb. And I think Ileana was very supportive, and we had bipartisan support, but people were not wanting to understand that the economic impact of a shipyard could be that of a commercial shipyard, and even more so. And now look, 20 years fast forward, how could anybody say that about Rybovich? Look at all that it is and all that it's doing and all the expansion still to this day.
Yeah.
And it led the way.
Yeah, and I think we're just kind of starting to scratch the surface of what's possible. We learned pretty soon, that we had to kind of get our own house in order, get our industry in order, make sure that we were presenting.
Have we done that?
I think we've improved a lot. I really do. But we still have a long way to go, in terms of, creating a much more professional industry that people can get behind and support and understand.
Yes.
Otherwise, it just looks like it's industry, to build toys for the rich. And it is all caviar and champagne. And there's a whole workforce of individuals, of skilled artisans that are working in this industry. And they deserve the same recognition that other industries do.
I agree. And one of the things I remember I learned from you too, we talked about matching the experience with the expectation and going, let's switch topics to the boat show. So you were involved with the association. Do you remember when you were the executive director, the volunteered, recruited for free?
Yeah. I mean that was what I learned from the trip up to DC that we took, and how little support we were really getting from the industry, and how there were people like you that were fighting, but you could barely get any support for the lobbying effort, and people didn't understand it, and that the association was the only voice. For whatever reason, that was the only unified voice that we had, and it had to be very important, and that association was really more interested in, as most not-for-profits do, they become consumed with just maintaining the organization moving forward. Or alive, for lack of a better description, and that association was kind of in that place, that they had gotten used to a very large check from their part of the boat show, and now they hired people, and now they needed to survive, they had to get that big check, and they were willing to sacrifice the future for the convenience of today. And when we talked about that, and there was some competition for, the executive director was leaving after a long tenure. There was competition for who that new executive director would be. And, we were kind of in a panic about,
the association didn't have any money.
Yeah, the association didn't have any money, and I thought the candidates weren't so great, and
yes,
I can't.
There was a lot of that too, and it just didn't seem like anybody was going to be able to be.
Yeah,
the future.
So it just seemed like it'd be easier to volunteer to do the job, ourselves, rather than have to try to convince someone else that the short-term objectives were not worth the long-term sacrifice. So that we
Which thus goes back to Lester's, why we were going there every week. In case anybody was confused on that in the beginning, it wasn't just like the hot industry hangout. That's where we would have our executive committee meetings.
Yeah.
And sometimes we would throw out people that were throwing tomatoes, or
Yeah. I mean that's what I learned in other businesses too. First of all, that something happens when you eat with people. It's in human nature that when you eat with someone, you learn to trust them.
Okay.
So you can have a conversation and talk about things and really pay attention. And two, most people won't give up a free meal. So if you do that, you can get everybody to kind of consistently get together and have a conversation. So you and I would start to go, and then it was easy to get Jay or get someone else to join us, and pretty soon there was 4 or 5 people there, able to address the issues of the industry without it looking like a big deal.
Right.
It wasn't like you're going like, hey, we come to my office at 11:30. It's more like, hey, we're having breakfast, but you come, and it's a lot easier to get things done.
There were a lot of things going on at that time. I know that we were dealing with international competition. competition.
Yeah.
I know that one of your objectives was to make sure that this wasn't just our industry. You know, I don't know whatever happened with it. I know you're the current chair of the Super Yacht Life Foundation, president.
Yeah,
of that.
I gave up my presidency I think last year, but I'm still on the board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're past president, but
Yeah.
you were president for a long
For a
time
long
with
time.
that.
I founded it and stayed president on 6 or 7, 8 years. I can't remember.
But the whole point of that is also to remember it's kind of another concept that you had, which was the one ocean. We're sharing this ocean space. These boats have so many choices to go, and even if they happen to be in Europe, they're going to come back this way. We all are one industry, and we all need to be working together, and we need to be recognized over here in the United States as a place that's worthy of these boats coming, the economic impact, the greatest concentration of services before they go to the Caribbean, that needs to be recognized, and we need to be working together, not against each other.
Yeah, I mean that seemed like a distant, dream at the time.
Right.
Little by little we got there, and I think very much so. I think at the time, people like Dean Dutoit, National Marine were doing exactly that in their own kind of way. And we kind of needed to change everyone's mindset to a little bit bigger, and that there's a bigger audience. And when one boat comes in, not everybody's got to feed off of the one boat. We
Right.
can try to attract 10 boats, and then there's more room for everybody.
There's room for everybody, right.
But first you got to create space for those other people and train them, and train your competitor basically, so when people come you have more than one option. And that was hard to stomach for a lot of folks early on, but I think you can't argue with the results. The number of boats that we have in South Florida now is well beyond anybody's imagination, and the size of those boats.
It really is incredible. And even during COVID, I think people saw the fruits of that labor, that while other industries and a lot of businesses were struggling, there were more boats down here. There were more boats coming. There were more boats going to the Bahamas. There were more boats being used. And suddenly we had, a lot of focus on us, and a lot of...
Yeah. Well, I think if you look at the industry, the number of players in the industry back when we started together, to what it is today, the industry of back then, when COVID hit, an opportunity kind of struck that everybody wanted to be on a boat because of the, you could leave and do all the reasons why post-COVID we had a boom. The industry before was not strong enough to have expanded. So the opportunity would have come, and then it would have passed us by. It would have gone somewhere else, or nothing would have happened, but because we had expanded the capacity, when opportunity knocked, we were able to, I don't know exactly how much bigger the industry is, but I imagine it's probably 50% at least larger than it was before.
But I also think it's a mindset that, one, we can say it's an industry, it's a recognized industry, it is a professional industry. You're still going to have always room for growth there. But I think that most of those objectives were accomplished. And I want to say that there were a lot of people not assisting in making this better. I feel like we had a lot of obstacles too. We had obstacles when it came to the show, through various developers, through various hurdles, through various operations that we had to kind of say, wait a minute, this is for the industry. It's not just about a show or one show. It's more about having this in Fort Lauderdale at this time of year as the world's largest boat show. And there were a lot of people fighting us on that back then.
Well, I think the attitude back then was kind of like, hey, we're Fort Lauderdale, we're the yachting capital of the world. And I used to say, it's good to have the pride and say, look, we're proud of who we are. But honestly, if you see the rest of the world, it's
Are we really?
Yeah. Do you really want to say we're the capital? I mean, that's very presumptuous on our part when you've seen some of the other places like, Monaco and so many other places that make you kind of go like, well, this was a pretty good competitor for capital too. And so if we want to be that capital, which I think in a lot of ways we have a very strong argument, we need to expand our offerings so that we can truly say that we are, and we can't rest on our laurels from 1980, and think that's going to work in the 1990s and the 2000s and the 2010s and now in 2024. And I think, it's expanded enough where, we have as good of a claim as anybody to that.
But I will tell you, it wasn't without fight. And I think you're breezing over that we took a long time, and we did. But I sat at many a meeting that in fairness, it required somebody with your skills and your qualifications. I remember just watching you, and you would be able to sit in a room, and we had people that were really trying to fight against our industry, and you know where I'm going with this, and fight for what we have. And I watched these people come in. I sat in meetings with you with people slamming their fists on tables, and yeah, can I give away your telltale sign? Yeah, because I'm the one that...
I knew you were going there.
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the telltale sign for everybody listening, if you're ever in a meeting with Carlos, and it's not going your way, you're gonna know when it's over, when the phone comes out of the pocket and sits on the table and he crosses his legs. See, right now there's no phone. He's good. He's comfortable. But if he crosses his leg and puts that phone down, you're done. Just go ahead, get up, take your water with you, but not in a disrespectful and a most clarity, forceful argument to the point. That's not the way it's going to happen, and this is the way it's going to be. And you fought time and time and time again. I remember you showing up to Lester's after being on a plane for 18 hours because you decided to go have a meeting with MEBA or go have a meeting with Seabass or go have a meeting with the principals of Monaco about the show and how can we, because there were times with the dates and people weren't sliding dates and people couldn't get back from Monaco to go to Fort Lauderdale, and there was this, and just being able to go down, break bread, go over there, have a conversation, sit down with them and say, hey, we're a force to be reckoned with. We're not just going to get steamrolled here. Look at our show versus your show. Only somebody like you did that. That's not a me. That was a you. And you were able to do that and sit down because you already had the ears of many of these people. And that didn't benefit just your business. You benefited a whole industry by doing those things. And I don't know how many people really know all that you did.
Yeah, I mean, it benefited us because, we could not just be one part in it. The whole team had to elevate, so we spent a lot of time, changing people's perception of us, but then also changing us. And the conversations you're talking about, we'd go to meetings, Christy and I, and, we would just, for 30 minutes, we would be insulted, torn up and down, why, we don't know what we're doing. And we would sit there quietly, listening, and eventually people, when you let people talk long enough, then they kind of realize that, maybe what I'm saying doesn't make that much sense and you don't have to do that. And then by the end of the meeting, they come around. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, they don't figure that out. They listen to themselves for 30 minutes and they're even more agitated than before. And then you have to kind of say, all right, this is not... Redirect them in your way. Yeah. Okay. We tried. Right. We can do it the nice way, or we can be a little bit more direct. But I mean, there's never a need to yell or scream or insult or just kind of like, look, this is what our expectation is, and then make sure you can back it up. You always handle it. You leave the room with class and with grace, and just never ever raise your voice ever. But the people that were talking to us did. They sure did. And they would call us names after. Yeah. But I do remember, so another story I remember, you don't have to keep holding on to that picture. Even though I have a funny on that one that I remember because I went with you guys and we can, I remember showing up to the hangar and I didn't want to give the guy the keys to my used F-150. Yeah, well, you never know who's going to steal your car. Oh yeah, and meanwhile I look over to my left and it's, nice car. There's that old F-150 that, by the way, my son drives up in New Hampshire now. Good. Okay. Yeah, yes, she's still around. And I laugh because I was so like, why am I worried about giving my keys? But yeah, we used to for the audience, we used to pseudo babysit her kids. We'd be at Lester's Diner at 8 a.m. on a when there's no school that day for whatever reason. Oh yeah. And she'd drag them in there, and they'd be sitting there at the table next to us. Eating chocolate chip pancakes and chocolate milk. You know what, though? To this day, my kids love Lester's. Yeah. This is like, and I'm like, really? You guys want to go to Lester? Oh, nothing against Lester's. We love Lester's. Yeah, We're getting a big plug. But, yeah. They used to come to a lot of meetings and they sat at that table. They probably know half these issues. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. But I do, to go back to that, I do remember you also were talking about, one thing in changing the image, you were saying, if I was, we have to get past the older guy going through a midlife crisis
He's going to go buy a yacht and go get a girlfriend. That instead we need to focus on the families that are going on these. Not everybody that buys a yacht is this midlife crisis guy. That there are so many families and grandparents and really kind of changing the image. That all the images that used to be to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show was, sex sells and smut. And not that there's anything wrong with beauty and elegance on a yacht, but it was also just kind of going down that path. And I remember you saying, wake up, people, like, change your own company ads. Let's talk about an industry. Let's talk about what that yacht is. We don't need to have bow babes on everything. And that was part of the professionalism. Even speaking to the board, getting all businesses to really up their game and professionalism. And I don't think anybody had ever told them that before.
I mean, the first step was to get a woman on the board.
Yeah.
So you did that.
Yeah.
And
Check.
that was not easy.
No. Oh.
No.
No.
And then second was to kind of elevate the stature of the industry and to not make it about that. That's maybe we have some customers, but the largest customer segment is the family oriented use of that boat.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that really seemed crazy when we presented it.
You wouldn't believe the people that were against you. Yeah. I remember
against us. Yeah. But I think today it's pretty well accepted. Everybody understands that's not what we're trying to do. And for us in here, we had like you said, the divorcee or the Playboy,
actor
wayward
or
husband,
something, sure,
that kind of thing. But around the world, we had the same thing with the image in different countries and different types of buyers, and I think that started here and has spread around the world.
And one other was matching the experience to the expectation. What did we find out? Let's see if you remember. I know you do. What's the number one reason people go to a boat show?
I don't know.
It was to have fun.
It was to have fun, yeah.
But you said, let's match the experience. And I'll still remember this analogy. And this was when you were kind of talking to us about how do we engage that owner that comes, because, people that are coming to the boat show, and again, within the focus of the association, that's why we're talking about the boat show. People, you won't recognize a super yacht owner. They're not coming in, silk suits and an entourage of 30 people. They could just be a plain Joe person. And how do we make sure that their experience when they come in, are they getting bombarded in the trinket tent or by the Budweiser girls, or are they getting hit with the garbage people that are driving by? Like, how do we provide the same experience to everybody? And I remember you gave the example of there was somebody that was new to to Rybovich, and you gave them a VIP parking pass and a ticket to a game. And the kid was so disappointed because his friends were tailgating and he was up front in this parking. And you said, even though it was the best parking pass ever and it was the best availability, it didn't match the expectation of the experience he was hoping to have. And what did you gain? You can throw money at something and that doesn't make it better. And see, I remember that. Yeah. How many years later?
I remember that,
yeah.
Yeah, that takes a little thought, a little planning, get to know your customer, understand what motivates them.
But you did that for the boat show. You spent time talking with people, talking with show management at the time before Informa, and talking to the board and talking to business leaders.
Yeah, but those meetings didn't go so well. Like they were.
You say that.
It took a while. It took a while to kind of, and nothing against them, but they had a business model that was not necessarily aligned with what we were trying to do to make the industry better. They show management eventually sold, for a handsome profit. Mm-hmm. That was really their primary objective, and they were, we were an inconvenient obstacle to doing that, And ironically, probably if they would have waited a little bit longer, they would have made even more money. They kind of took the first exit that became available, and but today we enjoy the benefit of that. Although, we need to reinvent ourselves again,
I was just going to say that we can't sit back. And I think that's one of don't you find that in all elements of businesses that you've worked in, that it's usually when there was another statistic you used to give, but whenever you're leading a change or part of an evolution, that you have so many, you really only have to convince 15% of the people, 85% are followers.
Everyone else will follow, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough 15, but once you get to there, that becomes a tipping point, and then everybody else will follow. If you've kind of created the infrastructure to support everybody else. That's why I was kind of saying with COVID, we kind of set in motion all these things to make a bigger industry. And then because of the timing, I mean, if COVID would have...
I never thought about that, but you're so right. You're right. We wouldn't have been prepared for COVID 10, 15 years ago.
Right. Yeah. And COVID, if COVID would have, the timing would have been different. That leak would have been, instead of in November, December, if it would have been in July, we would still be where we were, because the boats would have been stuck in Europe. Mm-hmm. They never would have come. And we would have lost one entire year of no business. Boats would have gotten used to the service in Europe, and maybe they would never have come. So we couldn't have timed it, any better than for long term for our industry. The boats were stuck on this side of the world, and then that gave us a chance to.
Well, just to be clear, we didn't do it, right?
Yeah, no,
we didn't time it.
We didn't.
Okay.
Of course not.
All right. Just making sure.
Somebody did it. Somebody did.
I agree with you.
It
Okay, but it wasn't us.
Yeah.
Wasn't me, wasn't you. Okay,
Yeah,
we're good. All right.
But the timing couldn't have been any better. But to the credit of the industry stepped up.
Right.
The government stepped up. Florida stepped up. Florida could have been like, everybody leave. Like a lot of the islands in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
As soon as things got bad, the government kicked everybody out. Mm-hmm. They had nowhere to go. They couldn't cross the Atlantic. They didn't have enough fuel. They didn't have the provisions. They had to come back up to us. And to the credit of Florida and the local government, the counties, they welcomed these boats. We quarantined, we did all sorts of crazy things, but ultimately, we let them in and we took care of them.
Yes.
At great risk to us, or perceived risk to us at the time. But the industry was ready, and the industry understood, we weren't taking the customer for granted. We were welcoming that customer.
Yeah.
And that I think, started in back in the early 2000s, when we started this whole idea of, don't assume we're the yachting capital of the world. We need to earn that title every single day.
So what do we need to do next? You said we still need to keep evolving, which I agree. I feel like I'm always, just even in my small microcosm of a business, I'm always looking for, what do we need to be ready for? How do we need to be agile? How do we need to be able to engage in that, should it come our way, and looking at that? But what do you think we need to be ready for? I
think during COVID, before COVID, a lot of the yacht builders were in trouble. They were, they hadn't quite gotten back to the boom times. They were trying to get back to that. We created a lot of extra capacity, and somehow we were selling the boats, but it was tough. During COVID, there was a huge, demand for the boats, and those boats
in all sizes too.
In all sizes,
yeah,
exactly right. In all sizes, and now those boats, which kind of happened also with the treadmill company. I forgot. I always forget the name. The one, the PED, where you can cycle and see the
Peloton.
Peloton,
yes,
yeah, Peloton.
Yeah.
So Peloton had the same issue, except Peloton was able to manufacture these a lot quicker. So all they did was pull this demand forward, and then when COVID was over, there was nobody left that wanted to buy a Peloton, because everybody that was going to buy a Peloton anytime between now and the next 3 years already bought one,
right? And
there's no one left to buy it. And so we got to be careful that that's not what happens to us here, that everybody that was going to buy a boat didn't kind of buy it. So now all these boats are in everybody's hands. They need to have a great experience.
Agree.
And if they have a great experience, then they'll share it with their friends, and then those friends will buy boats. If they have a bad experience, then those, they'll tell their friends, the last thing you want to do is buy a boat, which, we've been talking about this, for decades. So now that's what we have to do. We have to realize that the boats have gotten a lot bigger, that they're much more complicated, there's a lot of opportunity to have a boat come in and really take advantage of them and get a big invoice out of them and then never see them again. But instead, we need to be thinking, how do I minimize this invoice so that this guy will come back, every year for the next 20 years? That's really kind of probably the next step. That the industry has been expanded. Now we got to hold it here at this level and then grow it, moderately, in the future years.
And I think we have to worry about workforce too. I think that's
you can't
something
do without people. Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. And people don't want to, it's not just our industry and all. It's a lot more glamorous to either go to college and or to be an influencer. All these kind of phony, short-term careers that are out there, but if you don't get a person working as an electrician early,
Young,
it's hard
right.
to get them to be productive, once they get a little bit older. So you have to get them early, and we got to make it attractive for new people to enter our industry. Luckily, it's a beautiful industry, and on the water, there's a lot of things a lot better than others, but it's still an effort.
It is, and I think it has to be and remain a full-time effort. I know that we have a full-time recruiter, and just if it's not every day, it's probably 4 out of 5 days a week that we're interviewing for something. You got to keep it going, and because at the same time, I know for me, and I'm sure in your businesses as well, you have people retiring.
Yeah.
There's this whole workforce that is coming up and retiring. I have to say, I've had nothing but really good experiences with young people I've hired. I believe there is a whole great young generation that's really smart, that has a lot of great ideas. I think you have to find people with similar work ethic and discipline and build a culture. And I think you can find it. I think that the companies that struggle don't have a culture that's open to young people or open to different thoughts or different, avenues.
I think it's important for you to tell other companies about that, because I think if I was in the industry and I didn't know about the industry, like I would worry about that. And then would I want to buy a business? So when someone's trying to exit, will an outsider buy it? If I was going to leave my business to my child, would I want to leave them with a business that where there's no people to do it? So whatever your experience is, that there's hope. I think that's an important message to get out.
I agree, and also I think let's shift back to the boat show. What do we see about boat shows? I kind of am, I'm going to have somebody from Informa in this season, and I will ask the same question, but at some point, are boat shows going to live forever? Are boat shows going away?
I think boat shows should be able to live forever, except for the real estate upon which they, the water upon which they exist, and you have some large players that basically get paid a large amount of rent to subsidize the rest of the operation. And I just don't know, as we talked earlier, if there's enough money to go around to make it fun, plus pay these rents. And most, we're not the only industry that has this problem. Professional sports, has had a similar problem, and they're able to subsidize that with television, and then the television revenue started to be like, is it going to be enough or not? And then when gambling kind of took off and became legalized, it opened up a whole other revenue stream, and that kind of revitalized that whole segment. So for boat shows to survive, we're going to have to find a new revenue stream.
Evolve, like you said.
The exhibitors and the admittance ticket is not going to be enough. So I know we experimented with trying to get some sort of television coverage or some other revenue stream. We were not able to find that, but for it to survive, where people want to attend to it, you're gonna have to think of that, and it's possible. I mean, with influencers and all the things that are happening, you can imagine a lot of different ways that the boat show could reinvent itself, but it has to first have to want to reinvent itself. That's
what I was going to say. It has to want to, and then those that exhibit have to demand that it does and hold it accountable, because I don't see a lot of that. I see a lot of the same and the same and the same and the same, and it just gets more expensive and more expensive. And at some point, that's an elastic that's taut.
Yeah.
And then, even talking about the Fort Lauderdale, look at all the development sites. Las Olas, just kind of completed its redevelopment, but the convention center is not going to be done until 2025. Pier 66, beautiful renovation, but it's not going to be done until 2025. Now BMR is starting. I just think you're always fighting with some of these facilities that should absolutely upgrade and do the very best, but is that going to be? And
after they upgrade, do they still welcome you?
Don't know.
That's
right.
That's the big unknown.
Right.
So when we started, Monaco was kind of like by far the best show. It was amazing, and then over years they kind of took advantage of that, and now there's a lot of pushback about Monaco, and so they all have their issues. Palm Beach became the darling, but doesn't take too long before Palm Beach would fall into the same trap if you don't reinvent it.
Right. It's going to be an interesting time. What are you seeing? So talk to me about the Palm Beach County Health Board that you're chairman of.
Oh, yeah, it's the Palm Beach County Healthcare District. When we built the marina up in West Palm, we were very interested in changing the neighborhood, improving the neighborhood, improving opportunity for the residents that were there. It's a historic neighborhood, is as much as you can have history in Florida. I mean, our history started at the turn, at the 1900s, basically. So when you talk about history and in some of the European locations, it's a whole different game.
Sure.
But for us, it's an important history, and the residents there. So when we first got there, Wayne Huizenga Jr.'s vision was to kind of, greatly improve that neighborhood without, gentrifying the residents that were there. And we tried all sorts of things in terms of providing jobs for the local residents and incorporating, buying homes and doing all sorts of things to kind of transform that.
Which, by the way, you were not welcomed at doing that either. Weren't there caricatures and people? You had to drive this Crown Vic around that I thought, what kind of car? Yeah. What's happening over at Rybovich? And it was just because you were beat up for that for a long time.
Yeah, the Crown Vic is still a habit that I have. I don't drive a Crown Vic anymore, but it's not that much better.
Okay.
So the three things that really kind of change a person's future outcomes are education, housing, and healthcare. You have to be healthy enough to take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you. So we have a hospital district basically up there, and so the governor nominated me for that board,
have you learned a lot? I mean, like
everything else, I asked how much time it was going to take, because I want to make sure I could devote the time that would be required, and they said, no, really, you don't do much. You're kind of on a board of 7, and anyway, at the first meeting they made me the chairman. So that kind of changed the amount of work that I had to do, and that's a tough. And just like the marine industry when we first started, healthcare is changing dramatically around the world, and so looking at that with the same kind of way that we looked at the marine industry and saying, what's this going to look like in 5, 10, 20 years?
That's got to be bleak. Look, is it? I mean, is there any optimism?
I think you're exactly right. If you look at it, we just can't afford to provide healthcare, period, for the people that need it. However, I think there's a lot of really exciting things happening with artificial intelligence and robotics and all sorts of monitors that can prevent a lot of the ailments that we have.
Wow.
So I think if you do it the right way, that you could greatly improve the health
again
outcomes.
Start with the youth, get them involved in this early prevention and healthy life healthy living. That's
the easiest way. It's a little difficult because you don't want to trample on people's freedoms, so you don't want to force somebody to necessarily not go to Dunkin' Donuts on the way into work, but they should be aware of what the
consequences
what the consequences are, and then make a decision accordingly. So those are all, I think there's a tremendous opportunity, but anyway, I got in it because that was one of the elements, to try to help the residents, on the north end of West Palm Beach, which historically has been the part of all of Palm Beach County that kind of got less attention than the rest of the county.
And you're still involved with Rybovich, correct?
Yeah, we own the land where Rybovich is at. Safe Harbor Marinas runs the actual marinas now, but we own the land, and our idea from the beginning was to build a facility there that would rival Monaco. So we have more boats there than Monaco. In fact, we have I think twice the number of super yacht or maybe more of occupancy. So we have a lot more boats because we have them there 10 months out of the year, as opposed to Monaco is really 4 or 5 months. So we have a lot more activity there. And now we want to build, something on the upland, on the land that matches what's in the water, but build it in a way that makes it a great place to live, and but also a place that is very conducive to the marina and encourages the marine industry to continue to grow. That without a great, prosperous marine industry, those boats eventually will stop coming, and then you'll have a big
100%
empty
agree.
So the same thing that we talked for so many years about doing at Bahia Mar, that, hey, how do you build a great development here worthy of Fort Lauderdale, but also something that can still house the boat show? It's a tricky thing. It's a lot easier when you have a committee of two than when you're dealing with associations and different businesses. But
do you have any insight on that at all, of what's happening with the Bahia Mar development?
I don't have anything specific.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you guys have done a good job of letting the city know how important that is and how important the boat show is. So hopefully that will be done. But it has to come with a reinvention of the boat show itself. I
agree. Because then in and of itself, not only will it be profitable, but it'll be supportive for the industry. The industry will get behind it. The city will get behind it. What's good for the cities, what's good for the industry. Yeah. So politics, what are we thinking? Is the world going to be over in the second week of November, or are we going to be in a good place? Come on now. I know it's a hard question, but
you hate to say things, and then they just seem so ridiculous a month or 2 months later after what happens. And the world has changed so much. Who would have guessed that we would be where we are today?
I agree.
So what I think is unquestionable that we are in uncharted waters here. Mm-hmm. That what has happened, nobody can believe has happened. What has already happened, it's hard to believe happened. And I
feel like the show's not over yet. I feel like there's a lot of time between now and the election, and then post-election, and not to use show, but I feel like there's just every week there's something new.
Whatever happens after the election, we have to get back on a course with either party, back on a course of where America's leadership. Everybody's focused on America leading. There is no one else that can lead the world the way that we can, for a lot of reasons, and it would require us to go through a very painful downturn for a long period of time for anyone else to kind of challenge our leadership, and that's not good for anybody, even whoever prevails. So I think that we need to kind of focus back on the reasons that we ended up on top in the first place.
Sure.
And try to reinvent ourselves and figure out how to get us back to there. And that goes with every industry, all the industries. Yeah, what's going to happen in the next 5 years, like I was talking about healthcare, that's going to happen to every industry. AI is going to make so many things much more efficient, and it's going to allow us to research and understand things that we never knew were possible. And that's going to displace a lot of people, and then those people need to reinvent themselves, and they need to be prepared for that. Not be afraid of that, but be prepared for that.
How do we get people to not be afraid? Because all I hear about AI, not all that I hear, but comments that I hear from people are that they're scared about it, they're worried about it, that what happens when the bad people take it over. And it's like, well, I feel like you could say that about anything, that you really just need to be in front of it, and you need to embrace it. And
it's really, honestly, I don't think it's any different than when we were in the marine industry in 2004, and you could see that what we were doing wasn't going to work forever, and you could see in 2004, this association, if the boat show goes down, we're going to lose everything. And sure enough, 4 years later, that's where we were. Mm-hmm. But what did we do? We figured it out, and that's what, everybody in this country has done, since its inception. There's no reason to believe that's going to be any different.
Right.
So AI is just that next thing. It's just going to be a lot faster.
Yeah.
It's going to, because it feeds on itself, and it's going to, all of a sudden everything's going to be quite different, and you're going to have to go like, okay, now how do I adjust? But things are already quite different, they
really are.
Yeah, with your phone, there's nothing that any question you have, you can get it answered already, which is not at all what it was like before. So we're not beholden to those people that had certain knowledge or access to knowledge.
Right.
The knowledge is available. The question is, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
And that requires, some formal training.
But I think that that's a very healthy and optimistic outlook. I mean, it says, hey, we have a lot of work to do, but embrace it, move forward, be prepared for it, and put your head down and get some work done.
Right.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know,
that's exactly right.
And I think that's exactly what our industry needs to do.
And we should have confidence that we did it before and we'll do it again. So, but we can't do it alone. We gotta find out who else is like-minded and work with them. They may be your competitor, but you know, you can work with your competitors.
100% agree.
Toward making the industry better, and the better the industry, the more customers you'll have. The more customers you have, the stronger you are, and then it circles back to then you can make a better industry. Either put that money in your pocket, or you can make the industry better. And
well, if you make the industry
reinvest.
better, yes, and reinvest. And I know for us, I preach a lot with our company that we've made it to 75 years, but I don't want to celebrate the anniversary. I want to celebrate the years. And also, we're just getting started. We didn't reach a milestone, and now we're going to go sit down and be tired. We're just getting started, and there's so many wonderful things to look forward to in the future. And I'm happy that because of my anniversary, I had the weird idea to do this, and I got to sit with you for an hour. So
Fantastic.
I appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for your time.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Thank you so much.